Chapter 1. The Checklist. Jade Moreau believed in lists. They calmed the chaos, softened the sting of unpredictability. They turned emotion into logic, made goals feel attainable. And, most of all, they kept her heart out of places it didn't belong. On her fridge, just beneath a realtor's magnet shaped like a tiny gold key, hung her morning ritual, the daily non-negotiables. Drink water. Close 3 deals this week. Ignore Mom's texts, unless it's about her health. Call the cleaners. Smile even if you don't feel it. And below it, scribbled in bold red ink, don't settle. Her eyes lingered on that last line, and something in her chest gave a quiet sigh. She set her coffee down, crossed the kitchen, and opened the drawer where she kept her leather planner. Clean, zippered, and ruthlessly organized. She flipped past business cards, client notes, and color-coded tabs until she reached the one marked personal. There was another list, too. Folded neatly in the back of her planner, behind a tab labeled personal. It wasn't updated often, because it didn't need to be. Every name she'd crossed off over the years had failed some part of it. Financially stable, 6 figures minimum. Clean style. Educated, college degree required. Good family, no kids, no messy exes. Must match ambition. The last one was underlined twice. She stood in the kitchen of her high-rise condo, staring past the list and into her coffee. Dark roast, no sugar. Sweetness had its place, but not at 6 a.m. and not in a life like hers. Her phone buzzed. A name lit up. Derek Lane. Derek was polished, predictable, and professionally perfect. On paper. They'd been out twice, but both times felt like interviews. He asked about property trends, not passions. Flashed his business card before his smile. He wasn't unkind, just uninspired. And he ticked enough boxes on her list to make ignoring him feel illogical. But logic wasn't enough. Not today. She didn't answer. Instead, she silenced the phone, took another sip of coffee, then let the morning pass in a blur of showings and client calls. But despite the full calendar, Derek's name lingered in her mind like an unanswered email, hovering, waiting, unwanted. It wasn't that she missed him. She missed the idea of someone who made sense. Someone who looked good on paper. Someone who wouldn't disappoint her mother or trigger her insecurities. Around mid-morning, she caught her reflection in the elevator mirror between appointments. She looked sharp, professional, poised, exactly the image her checklist required. So why did she feel hollow? Her last showing of the morning was a tidy 2-bedroom bungalow just south of Grant Park. The couple she toured it with was young and nervous, holding hands like they were afraid the house might slip away if they let go. Jade did her usual. Pointed out the crown molding, noted the new HVAC, emphasized walkability to schools. She smiled at the right moments, reassured them when the kitchen size made them hesitate, and handed over a crisp business card as they stepped back out into the sun. They looked hopeful, grateful even. She should have felt good. She didn't. She lingered in the empty house for a few minutes, staring at the faint outline where a couch had once been. Quiet space. Lived in walls. She imagined a life in it, just for a second, then shook it off. That wasn't her job. Her job was to sell dreams, not to get tangled in them. As she locked the door behind her and walked down the front steps, a weight settled into her chest. Not heavy enough to stop her, but familiar, dull, persistent. The kind of weight that made success feel suspiciously close to loneliness. For a split second, she imagined it was her own house she was locking, her own family waiting inside. Just an image, a flicker, nothing more than a vivid dream. Maybe this was what dating looked like at her level. Not sparks, not laughter in a parking lot, or butterflies in crowded rooms. Just carefully filtered men who fit bullet points and looked good in photos. Maybe love, real love, was for the reckless or the content, not the driven. And maybe wanting more meant being ungrateful, or unrealistic, or worse, soft. She hated that word. Still, something in her wanted to believe that connection could be more than compatibility. That maybe, somewhere out there was someone who didn't fit the mold, but felt like home. She opened her phone, typed out a short message, the kind that felt like a compromise with herself. "Still good for noon?" he replied in under a minute. "Still good for noon?" She stared at the screen. Same words, same cadence. For a second, it felt oddly transactional, like confirming a calendar event, not meeting for coffee. There was no warmth, no wink of humor or curiosity, just a mirrored efficiency that reminded her even their texts lacked a pulse. She was parked outside a Buckhead cafe, reviewing MLS listings while waiting on a date, if you could call it that. Derek was an Ivy League attorney with perfect teeth, a gleaming watch, and a smug way of glancing at the waiter like he'd rather be served by someone in a tie. He arrived 5 minutes late, finding her already seated inside at a small table near the window. Coffee half finished, tablet in hand, the remains of a pretense of patience on her face. And he was full of himself. "You look sharp," he said, giving her a once-over like he was evaluating square footage. "That blazer says eye close." "I do," Jade replied smoothly. "Homes and conversations." Derek chuckled. "Touché." For 43 minutes they talked, or rather Derek did, about his firm, his recent Tahoe trip, his ex who just couldn't keep up with his ambition. Jade smiled in the right places, nodded when required, and finished exactly half of her salad. It wasn't that she didn't try. She always tried. But somewhere between his third name drop and a story about mentoring less fortunate interns, something inside her shut off. She folded her napkin neatly before standing. "Everything okay?" Derek asked. "Just remembered I left the iron on." "I thought you said you don't iron." "I lied." She offered a tight smile, already reaching for her purse. "Can we split the check? I've got a call in 20. Derek blinked. "Oh, sure, yeah." The waiter returned, and Jade slid her card forward before Derek could protest. She didn't want a scene. She just wanted out. 5 minutes later, she was back in her car, door shut, engine humming. The air conditioning blasted away the stale cafe scent as she sat behind the wheel, staring through the windshield. He had checked most of the boxes, and somehow it still felt like subtraction. She exhaled and pulled into traffic. That evening, she dropped her keys onto the marble island and peeled off her heels like they were shackles. The condo was spotless. An open concept expanse of glass, stone, and cool blues. It should have felt like peace. Instead, it echoed. Jade poured a glass of wine and wandered to the balcony. From 22 floors up, the city looked manageable, distant, quiet. She thought of Derek's voice, like a podcast she couldn't pause. Then she thought of the magnet on her fridge and the list beneath it, and the one folded away like gospel. He'd checked most of the boxes. And yet, she felt nothing. Her reflection in the glass door stared back, polished, pretty, composed. Maybe love's a fairy tale for broke dreamers, she whispered to no one. And I'm wide awake. She sipped the wine and closed her eyes, willing herself not to feel that ache in her chest. The one she never spoke of. The one that sometimes whispered, when the deals were done and the condo was quiet, that maybe she wasn't tired of dating. Maybe she was tired of pretending. And somewhere beneath the surface of her carefully managed life, her inner voice, the quiet one, the real one, rose to the top like air in a bottle of wine. But what if love wasn't the problem? What if the checklist was?